Right now, a chilly relationship. Obama canceling his meeting with Vladimir Putin amid tensions over the NSA leaker. Question is, did he make the right call? And next, 4 years after signing the deal that was supposed to end housing desegregation or segregation in suburban New York City County, the war of words continues and the problems yet to be resolved. We're going to be speaking with a number two man at HUD here to find out why he and Astorino are not on the same page. And later, will Chelsea Clinton get into the family business? She says she's open to the possibility. The question we're asking tonight is, why do so many political kids that get to see the ugly side of politics firsthand still want to get into the family business? We'll be talking about that tonight. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, August 7th. August 7th, already getting along here. All right, let's start with the president, where Mr. Obama said no in no uncertain terms to Mr. Putin today. They will not have a one-on-one meeting as planned here, and I want to bring in Andrew Whitman to find out why. And Andrew, this bilateral meeting here, that it's really, at least for a lot of folks in the world here, if you get to sit down face-to-face with the president, it's a big deal. It's not happening. It's not happening for a lot of reasons.
That's true, Rich. And let's just say things are frosty right now between President Obama and Vladimir Putin. The president will travel to Russia next month for an international summit, but there will not be that bilateral sit-down. So what's driving a wedge between the two world leaders? None other than one Edward Snowden.
U.S.-Russian relations have recently been strained, and the Kremlin's decision last week to give NSA leaker Edward Snowden temporary asylum fueled the flames. Today, the White House announced that President Obama will not meet one-on-one with President Vladimir Putin next month when he's in Russia for an international summit. The White House said in a statement that there wasn't enough progress on the U.S.-Russian agenda to justify a meeting, but there's also this. Quote, Russia's disappointing decision to grant Edward Snowden temporary asylum was also a factor.
There's a lawbreaker or an alleged lawbreaker in their country. We evaluate it. And we try to work with them. They didn't do that with us.
Those were President Obama's first comments about Snowden's asylum. He was also candid about his relationship with President Putin.
You know, the truth is that when we have meetings, we can have some pretty blunt exchanges and animated exchanges.
President Obama was facing significant political pressure at home from Republicans and Democrats.
Russia has stabbed us in the back.
Russian officials from Putin on down have said repeatedly that they didn't think the Snowden situation should affect the U.S.-Russian relationship, but American officials thought otherwise.
The Russians say they are disappointed there will be no Obama-Putin meeting, and they say the invitation is still on the table. Rich?
Yeah, I wouldn't hold their breath. All right, Andrew, thank you. I want to bring in our panel on this. Evan Thies, founder of Brooklyn Strategies. Dominic Carter, political journalist, author. O.B. Murray here, Republican strategist. And, of course, Andrew, who you've already met. And guys, to my immediate right and left, I want you guys to think about in your day jobs as consultants here. What would you, Evan, advise the president to? There's a lot of backstory to this. It's not just Snowden. Yeah. You got the Syria issue here and the Russian non-compliance, a lot of the Western nations in terms of having a unified front with them. There's the missile defenses. There's the policy as it relates to gays and lesbians with the Olympic Games coming up in Sochi. There's a lot of backstory to this. Yeah. This seems to be Cold War redo. Did the president have no other choice than to say thanks but no thanks to this summit?
Yeah, he did. He couldn't go into that the way that tensions have risen now. And unfortunately, this is one of those situations where really the president should be throwing his consultants out of the room. I mean, he's got to be a statesman in this situation. He should care what the public thinks and what they want out of him in international relations. But he has to make a decision on behalf of the global economy, on behalf of future relationships. Right. He can't escalate things. But that doesn't mean that when he does eventually see Vladimir Putin next month that he shouldn't admonish him for it. I think that would send a clear message that we are unhappy about the way that this went down and continue to be. Consider this man a serious threat and want him back.
And what Evan's talking about is there's the G20 summit beyond this.
They're still going to see each other.
Right.
I mean, but Evan, the fact that they're not giving one-on-one time is very symbolic, very important. And I think I agree with Evan 100% on the fact that it's a statesman opportunity now. It's not political. We said this before on the show when he was traveling across the globe before. I mean, a president being a statesman is not supposed to be political. It's about it becomes political if there's an election coming up or things around you. But it's a chance to show you can lead. It's a chance to show what America is like across the globe. And you know, if you think back to the Gorbachev-Reagan days, they built a relationship over time.
But we also, if you want to use another analogy, when you had Khrushchev and JFK, there was obviously, with different stakes going on with the Minsk crisis, there was also, you know, who was calling whose bluff here, and they were reading each other to see, does this guy have a spine? Where's the line with this guy that I can really push him or not? There's a Cold War aspect to this year that's not just made for TV.
That's been a constant thing on Obama, though. I mean, from the right, we've always said he's rolling over. He's doing whatever they want. It's more important to him what they view, what their view is of him across the world, opposed to across the United States sometimes on his foreign issues. It's a constant problem he's had, and I think right now he's seeing where it's hurting him right now.
And there's a game of chess going on here too, because let's face it, Russia is not the country it used to be. It's bordering on second class now. It has serious problems. It's being ruled by a dictator, basically. This guy scores points politically, internationally, by going after the president and getting into a fight with him. So to engage with him, it elevates him in a way that Ahmadinejad would wish for at this point.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I wonder, to me this feels more like domestic pressure on Obama, so that people are saying, what are you doing about Snowden, and he has an answer for it. I mean, you compared it to the Cuban Missile Crisis and to the problems with Khrushchev and JFK.
At least from a tone standpoint.
No, I know, but this is Edward Snowden. This is giving asylum to one guy who snuck out of the country. It's not quite on that level yet.
But he's been pushing, and he's been pushing.
It's not just
it's
one
not
guy.
just one thing.
This has become an international uproar at the expense of the United States of America, and solely, Richard, based on Snowden. From my point of view, I can understand why the president would not grant this one-on-one meeting. It's been an international disgrace, and Russia has played a big role in this.
From a personality standpoint, wouldn't you guys think, though, that the playbook for the last 5 years of Obama is not to go along to get along, but he doesn't like the petty stuff, right? And he wants to do more substance stuff. And he spent a lot of his first term at least trying to re-engage Russia and trying to have a different relationship. This isn't the conclusion he wanted. Some other president said, hey, this will be good TV. I can say, hey, Kremlin, go kiss my you-know-what. Right. This particular case, he knew that there's downside to canceling this because there's substantive stuff on the table that he'd like to get to.
Richard,
missiles, etc.
9 times out of 10, it's not the consultants, but it is the staff. It's people from the State Department. This stuff's figured out 9 times out of 10 before they have a one-on-one. They don't just walk in and say, what are we going to do? There's agendas, who sits where, how big the table is, who's at the table, who's at the second chair, what do they serve for the meals? I mean, any of these things are all decided. But it is the president
who decides at the end of the day, do I pull the plug or not?
Well, he does, but at the same time, but what did he pull the plug on? He pulled the plug on a private meeting. Like I say, in private, it was announced and so forth. They will run into each other and have some sort of conversation at some point at the G20. Yeah. He can deliver his message then. Behind the back channels, they can deliver plenty of messages as that goes on. Also, don't forget, there's a lot of the Middle East issues, too. This is not just about Snowden. No. What's going on in Iran? What's going on in Syria? Yeah. And these are important issues. And he could use Snowden as cover and be able to set an example and say, I'm not meeting with Putin. You can determine why that is on your own.
Listen, real quickly, guys, the Olympic Games are always political footballs. Obviously, we saw what happened in 80, 84, so it's not like I'm reaching here. Now, what went on, and we don't have a lot of time for this, but the policy that is in Russia as it relates to gays and lesbians, and this idea that for 3 weeks we'll suspend this for a minute. The president's in an interesting position, not that he'd boycott the games, but if the athletes, American athletes, want to do some symbolic sign of supporting gay rights, holding up little rainbows as some have suggested, etc., he's going to have to know that he's going to have to speak to it, whether he supports it or not, and it'll become an international incident.
Look at Pussy Riot. They just spoke out on the band that spoke out against them and ended up in jail, too. Yeah.
So the best thing to do is to go and win. I mean, there are going to be gay athletes that are going to have, you know, Jesse Owens moments.
I was just going to say that.
And everybody is going to cover it, and it's going to be humiliating for Russia. And look, a lot has been said about the United States and not being for gay marriage and being behind the times and getting buried by the future.
Compared to
That's going to be the case for the rest of the world over the next 2 decades, and they're going to be way behind.
We take a break. When we come back, we're going to turn to an issue. It's a huge issue in the county of Westchester, where, by the way, there is an election this fall, and we're going to be talking about a subject that has gotten even national headlines, a housing desegregation suit here that's been going back and forth 4 years. And 4 years after signing the deal that was supposed to end it, the fight and the war of words still continues. We'll explain with a special guest after this break.